It was a bright Saturday morning, and the city was already awake. People were walking quickly along the streets, cafes were filling with customers, and the sound of traffic hummed in the background. I had planned a simple day, nothing special. Just a quiet morning coffee, a short walk, and maybe a little shopping. I left my apartment feeling relaxed. The weather was warm, and the sun was shining gently through the tall buildings. As I walked toward my favorite cafe, I felt grateful for the peaceful start to the day. The cafe was small but cozy. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, and soft music played in the background. I stepped up to the counter and ordered a cappuccino and a croissant. "Anything else?" the cashier asked with a friendly smile. "No, that's perfect," I said. She nodded and told me the price. I reached into my pocket. Then I froze. My pocket was empty. For a moment, I thought maybe I had checked the wrong pocket. I tried the other one. Nothing. I checked my jacket. Still nothing. A strange feeling slowly crept into my chest. My wallet. I suddenly realized I had left it at home. My heart began to beat a little faster. The coffee was already being prepared, and the croissant was sitting on a small plate beside the register. People were standing behind me in line. I felt embarrassed. What should I do now? Should I explain the situation? Should I cancel the order? Should I just walk away? For a moment, my simple morning suddenly felt very complicated. Little did I know this small mistake was about to turn into one of the most unexpected experiences of my life. I stood there for a few seconds, feeling my face grow warm with embarrassment. My mind quickly searched for a solution, but every idea seemed awkward. The cashier looked at me politely, waiting for me to pay. "I'm so sorry," I finally said quietly. "I think I forgot my wallet at home." For a brief moment, I expected frustration or impatience. After all, the cafe was busy, and there were people waiting behind me. But instead, the cashier simply smiled. "That happens sometimes," she said calmly. Even though she sounded kind, I still felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to cause trouble for anyone. I quickly shook my head. "It's okay," I said. "You can cancel the order. I'll just come back later." Just then, a voice from behind me spoke. "It's all right, I'll cover it." I slowly turned around, surprised. A middle-aged man standing in line behind me stepped forward. He was holding a newspaper under his arm and had a gentle expression on his face. "You don't have to do that," I said quickly. He gave a small laugh. "It's just coffee and a croissant," he replied. "No big deal." Before I could protest again, he had already tapped his card on the payment machine. The cashier handed me the receipt and placed my coffee on the counter. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I really appreciate it." The man nodded casually. "Maybe one day you'll help someone else," he said. His words stayed in my mind as I picked up the warm cup of coffee. What had started as an embarrassing mistake was slowly turning into something unexpected. But the day was far from over. In fact, this small act of kindness was only the beginning. I carried my coffee and croissant to a small table near the window. The morning sunlight gently filled the cafe, and people were chatting quietly around me. Even though everything looked normal, my mind kept returning to what had just happened. A stranger had paid for my breakfast. It was such a simple act, but it felt meaningful. I took a sip of my coffee and looked toward the counter again. The man who had helped me was now waiting for his own order. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to walk over to him. "Excuse me," I said politely. He turned and smiled when he saw me. "I just wanted to thank you again," I said. "You really didn't have to do that." He shrugged gently. "It's nothing," he replied. "Everyone forgets things sometimes." The barista called his order, and he picked up a cup of black coffee. Instead of leaving, he joined me at my table for a moment. "So?" he asked kindly. "Busy day ahead?" "Not really," I said. "Just a quiet day. I thought I would relax a little." He nodded. "That sounds nice. Life moves so fast these days. Sometimes we forget to slow down." For a few minutes, we talked like old friends, even though we had just met. He told me he often came to this cafe on Saturday mornings. It was his small routine before starting the weekend. Before leaving, he stood up and looked at me with a warm expression. "Remember what I said," he told me. "One day you might help someone else. I smiled and promised that I would. As he walked out of the cafe, I watched the door close behind him. I didn't even know his name, but somehow his kindness had already changed my day. After finishing my coffee and croissant, I sat quietly for a few minutes, thinking about the stranger who had helped me. His kindness felt simple, but it had made my morning much brighter. Soon I left the cafe and stepped back onto the busy street. The city was even more alive now. Cars moved slowly through traffic, people hurried past each other, and street vendors were calling out to customers. As I walked along the sidewalk, I suddenly noticed something happening near a small fruit stand. A young woman stood at the counter, searching through her bag again and again. Her face looked worried. "I'm sorry," she said to the vendor. "I think I forgot my purse." The vendor crossed his arms, looking slightly impatient. A few people were waiting behind her. "I already packed the fruit," he said. "You ordered it." The woman looked embarrassed. "I can come back later," she said softly. At that moment, the memory of the cafe returned to my mind. The stranger's words echoed clearly. "Maybe one day you'll help someone else." Without thinking too much, I stepped forward. "It's okay," I said. "I'll pay for it." The woman looked at me in surprise. "Oh, no, you don't have to," she began. But I simply smiled. "Someone helped me this morning," I explained. "Now it's my turn." The vendor nodded and I paid for the fruit. The woman thanked me again and again, her eyes full of gratitude. As she walked away holding the small bag of fruit, I felt a warm feeling in my heart. It was the same feeling I had experienced earlier in the cafe. In that moment, I realized something important. Kindness travels quietly from one person to another, like a small wave moving through the world. After helping the young woman at the fruit stand, I continued walking down the street. The city still looked the same, busy, noisy, and full of people going about their day. But somehow, everything felt a little different to me. I kept thinking about how the day had started. It began with a simple mistake. I forgot my wallet and felt embarrassed standing at the cafe counter. At that moment, I thought my morning was ruined. But instead, something unexpected happened. A stranger showed kindness. And because of that small act, I found the chance to help someone else just a few hours later. As I walked through the park nearby, I sat down on a bench and watched people passing by. Some were laughing with friends, some were talking on their phones, and others were walking quietly alone. It made me realize something important. Every person we pass may be facing a small problem we cannot see. Sometimes, all it takes is a little kindness to make their day easier. That stranger in the cafe probably didn't think much about paying for my coffee. For him, it was just a small gesture. But for me, it became a lesson I would never forget. Kindness doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It can be as simple as helping someone, offering a smile, or showing understanding. That day I left home without my wallet. But somehow I returned home with something much more valuable. A reminder that kindness has a way of traveling from one heart to another. And sometimes, the smallest moments can teach the biggest lessons.